Hi there! I just got these two boxes of amazing and new acrylic markers from Arrtx, and I'm over the moon with excitement. I really want to try them out, and I thought they would be super satisfying to use on shrink plastic to make Halloween pins. Before showing you my process, let me unbox these markers. Oh wow, they have brush nibs. That I hadn't noticed. Makes me even more excited since I love my other Arrtx brush paint markers so much. The smaller box has 36 markers and the other one 48. Oh, so many colors! Yay! I need to order them by color and swatch them for my mental health. And as I do that, let me quickly share with you some old footage of the shrink plastic I'm using today. It's the same bag I used a year ago for my first video and that I've used with my kids for many projects. It's not a name brand, but I got it because it had so many sheets and it's worked great, so I'm gonna link it below just in case you are interested in getting the same one. Back to the pins. As always, the first thing I did was dump and sketch ideas on my sketchbook. And when I took it out, I realized that when I made the sketches for the first video, I had randomly done a sketch of a little ghost-like droplet creature on top of a pumpkin. So I thought, yay, let's make some Halloween pins this time since it's October. The thing I really wanted to do this time is experiment with leaving parts of the shrink plastic unpainted to show transparency. So you're going to see that all of the items I chose to draw are going to have a transparent element to them. All of my ideas were down on my sketchbook, so now I needed to draw them on a blank piece of paper. Of course, you can go ahead and draw them directly on the shrink plastic, but I like the idea of tracing the image better so you don't make mistakes and it's easier to work with. Shrink plastic shrinks a lot, but I never remember how much it shrinks. The only thing I did remember was that a year ago when I made the pins, I cut my paper in half and in quarters, and the size of the resulting pins was nice, small and cute. So that's why now I'm drawing all of my ideas on these sizes of paper. As you saw, the first thing I drew was a gumball machine, because of the transparency of the container, because like I said, transparency is the thing I wanted to try the most this time. For the second one, I really wanted to draw one of those balloons that are clear and big and have a color balloon inside. So I have a little ghost holding his balloon and he's wearing a candy corn hat and he's ready to celebrate Halloween. The next idea, I thought I would do a potion bottle, but instead of having a regular cork, I'm using a little skull, and inside the bottle is the liquid potion and one of my droplet creatures kind of floating in there. I just wanted to make a note explaining that even though I had already sketched all of these ideas in my notebook, when I did the larger sketches, there was a lot of erasing and correcting and trying again. I personally don't just draw things like magic with no mistakes, and I wanted to share that with you because I don't want anybody to get frustrated if they cannot get a drawing to their liking as fast as it looks like I did in this video, because that's all editing. This took me a while, and that is okay. In all, I chose 7 of my designs for the pins, so I made 7 drawings, and all of them have an area that I will leave unpainted to make it look transparent. Here are all the drawings together, and I'll add a few more details with the colors once I'm tracing them on the shrink plastic. To trace the images, I hold the paper down with some masking or washi tape, and I do the same thing with the shrink plastic on top, because if not, it does slide a lot out of place. It's plastic after all. I forgot to show you how to activate and use the markers. They come with instructions that ask you to shake them, remove the cap in the back, and then you just have to pump them. It says in the instructions you need to pump them 4 to 5 times the first time, but you're gonna see that for me, just with the first pump, all of the paint comes down, even dropping out of the marker. I think that's because of the altitude and pressure here in Quito, Ecuador. These markers have traveled a long way up to this altitude, and this happens to me with every single brand of paint marker that I have to pump somehow. It's just the pressure. My son did activate the rest of the markers for me, and he realized he could pump them a little bit lighter, and that by holding the markers horizontally, he didn't have a lot of paint go out, or none at all. And I'm sorry I don't have footage of that. It was just a little moment we shared together while we were swatching and trying out the markers for the first time. Okay, with that out of the way, I was so ready to paint my drawings with the markers. They are incredibly juicy and satisfying to use. I instantly loved them. With my little ghost, I did the outlining first because I wanted to experiment and see which way of painting these worked best. I also drew the eyes and cheeks. My plan was to color everything and go around the features, but that seemed like too much work when I actually did it, so I risked going on top of everything with white and then drawing them back on. And I say risk because according to this video I saw that has beginner tips and tricks for shrink plastic, which I'll link below because I thought it was great, if there's too much paint, it will pool and bubble once in the oven, which did happen to me last time. But anyhow, onward, because that was a problem for future Paula and her oven, not mine at that moment. Next, I drew a cake stand with a little cupcake in the middle. For this one, I started with the ghost because now I know I don't want to go around those tiny eyes and that I have to paint them on top. I'm also outlining everything at the end. For the stand, I wanted it to look similar to a candy corn, so I used the same colors, and because the markers are so juicy, I was able to blend them a little bit. I could have blended these markers even more, but again, I didn't want to risk having way too much paint on the plastic. Because everything was so juicy, it was taking a little while to dry, so I thought while I waited to outline everything, I could jump ahead and start the next one. So here I am getting the snow globe ready, and once more I started by painting the ghost, which is more of a droplet creature ghost here too. I wanted this ghost to be different and more me. I painted the rest of the drawing, and you can see with me painting this orange area just how satisfying these markers are. So juicy. While I did this, the other drawing was dry and ready to outline, so I added more details too and finished outlined everything. I added some white highlights to the glass and little sprinkles on top of the ghost. Outlined the snow globe too, and I added white highlights for the glass and some little white sprinkles to make it look like it's floating. Next was the potion bottle, and this is where things got complicated. I started by coloring the skull-shaped bottle stop and then my droplet creature with green. I thought if I painted the whole potion with a lighter green, I could go on top of the droplet and I was gonna still be able to see it through the lighter green, which did not happen because these markers are amazingly saturated and opaque. Then, for some reason, I thought it would be a good idea to make the bottle purple, but instead of making it purple and transparent, I went over all of it with a lighter purple, covering every little bit of the shrink plastic. When I was finishing with the purple, I thought to myself, wasn't your idea to have everything be see-through somehow? Yes, it was, but I forgot. I don't know, with these two mistakes I decided I would go ahead and try something else, so I flipped the shrink plastic and outlined the image on the glossy side. I also added the highlights and some little sparkles on this side, and it was definitely an experiment, but because I was nervous about it, I did start over and created a second bottle of poison. Only this time I did go around my little droplet creature and left an area unpainted like I was supposed to. I thought it would be a good idea to add a jar to this collection of transparent things, so I drew a jar filled with the thingies I draw. They are in the drop version. They are in their drop version still, so they haven't splattered onto something. Once they hit something, they flop over whatever the thing is, These are weird creatures. They appear to look like ice cream or fruit sometimes, or like round bubbles, but once they touch something, they'll act like a droplet. They sometimes look like cats or bears, and they often show their butts, and they appeared as popcorn on my last video. I don't know if you've seen any other of my videos, but I keep coming back to these creatures, so I thought I would explain a little bit more about them today. And this jar is full of a poisonous kind of purple droplets. They look so innocent, but they are labeled to avoid accidents. Finished painting everything on the jar, and I needed to move the plastic from the top to see the sketch to be able to draw their faces and their butts. Added white highlights for the glass, and on to the next. I really wanted to draw a cute bat, so I made it into the cap of this transparent cup holding some type of boba tea. To make it spookier, I thought the tea needed to be green and the boba pearls could be toxic yellow. Outlined the illustration, and I regretted outlining the pearls, so I stopped and let it dry a bit while I painted the face. The pink marker was way too juicy, so I thought it would be best to remove a little bit of that paint with a cotton swab and not risk it bubbling up in the oven. Then I went over the bubbles with yellow to try to cover a bit of that black outline. And last, we are back to our gumball machine. And what I'm doing is I'm painting all of these gumballs with different colors. If you noticed, I kept the same color palette for all of the drawings, so the gumballs are going to be different shades of purple and green. And for the machine, I chose to mimic some candy corn again. When everything was dry, I added the white for the eyes on every gumball, and I wanted to say that I filmed this whole video without having to pump any of these markers again. They are so juicy. The only one I had to slightly pump was the white, and just because I used it the most and I wanted it to be thicker since I was going to go on top of other dark colors. Oh, and another thing is that for this video, I only used the smaller set with 36 markers because I already had a limited Halloween palette, and I wanted to show you that even the smaller set has a wonderful variety of colors, and it's super enjoyable. Spoiler alert, I love these markers so much, I'm going to use them again for a sketchbook video. I can't wait to try them on other surfaces, especially on cardstock or watercolor paper. Okay, time to cut everything before putting it in the oven. I'm not leaving a space between the black line because I want the unpainted plastic or transparency to be just in the areas that are supposed to be glass. When you cut shrink plastic, you have to avoid sharp turns so it won't rip. So you're going to see me curving the edges with the scissors instead of going in to avoid breaking the plastic. And then what I do to get those corners is come in with the scissors from a different angle. That's another thing I just learned from the video by Amy Maith that I will share with you in the description of this video. For the drawings in which I only use half of the sheet, I cut the unused part off, and of course I'm going to save that for future projects. Maybe if you like these, I could do something for Christmas. I don't know. Here are all 8 drawings I have ready before shrinking them, and I wanted you to look at them like this because they are so pretty as a set and so cute on this larger size. Okay, oven time. And I'm just going to start with this poison bottle since this is the piece that makes me the most nervous because I painted on both sides, and not only that, it's a very thick layer of paint that I applied. So in it went, and as you can see, my daughter's next to me. You can see our reflection, and we are both so nervous for this. It's really hard to film through the oven, so I did open it a little bit for you to see how the plastic curls up. And you can still see me there worrying about the shrinking. But it was time to take it out, so I took it out and flattened it further with a wooden cutting board. And guess what? It worked great! Yay! Arrtx Simpat brush markers. That's a mouthful. And actually, my daughter says this is the one she liked best because since I painted on both sides, it almost looks like it's layered and deeper. Okay, now most of the fear was gone, so I chose to do the other poison bottle to go next, so that we could compare the two. Here they are out of the oven and they shrunk differently. One is rounder than the other. I don't know why. Another thing I wanted you to note is that because I use frosted shrink plastic, it doesn't really look transparent out of the oven. But my daughter told me, don't worry, that's going to look better once you apply the Mod Podge, and I believe her. I also wanted to share a little time lapse with the door open so you could see how the charm shrinks. And this is the only one which I actually helped a bit with the spatula because it looked like it was going to shrink onto itself and get ruined. But it didn't. It just got a little bit twisted to one side. But because the illustration is so playful, I think it still looks great. So of course, I put all of the rest of my pieces in one by one. And this is how they all came out. How cute are these? I absolutely love them. Just by looking at them all together, I know I did a better job than I did the first time I tried these, so I was super happy. Also, this time I did buy some dimensional Mod Podge that I'm gonna put on top of them so that the finish is nicer. For this one, I'm just going to put the Mod Podge on the dome, so just the top part of my cake stand, and the bottom I'm going to do with regular nail polish, like I did last time, so we can see the difference. The snow globe is another one on which I wanted to try something different. I added glitter glue to it first and let that dry, and then I was going to put the Mod Podge on top. Then for the rest of the pieces, I just used the dimensional Mod Podge all over, and when I finished, I went back to the snow glove. And to be honest, that wasn't completely dried, but I'm impatient sometimes. So I just wanted to finish, and I added the Mod Podge on top of that and hope for the best. Here are all my charms on the next day, and yay, that glitter glue worked perfectly with the Mod Podge on top. Oh, I couldn't be happier. Last step is of course to glue a pin to the back of all of them, or a magnet if you prefer. They work for both ideas. The only downside of the dimensional Mod Podge is that I have a lot of tiny air bubbles all over them, which I didn't really notice when I was applying it. If I had, I would pop them with a pin or something. But because of the scale of the project, I think they are barely noticeable, and I'm still very happy with all the pins that we made today. And guess what? They also do look transparent with the Mod Podge on. My daughter was right. Maybe next time I'll graduate to resin to finish them, who knows? But for now, I hope you like all of these as much as I did, and that I'll see you next Friday with a new video. Thank you, Arrtx, for sending these markers to me. They are amazing. And thank you so much for being here and watching all the way to the end. I hope you're having the most wonderful day. Bye!